Hello and welcome to When Learning Feels Hard. I'm Katie Nelson, dyslexia and dyscalculia specialist and founder of the Dyslexia and Dyscalculia Academy. I work with families every week through assessments and support, and I'm also speaking from my own experience as a parent. In this podcast, we explore the questions many parents find themselves asking when learning starts to feel difficult for their child. Together, we'll look at what might be happening beneath the surface when reading, writing, or maths feels harder than expected, and how parents can begin to support their child with greater clarity and confidence. So, wherever you're listening from today, I'm really glad that you're here. Because this is the first episode, I wanted to start with something that sits right at the heart of this podcast. And that is understanding why learning can start to feel hard for some children. Many parents I meet during assessments say something very similar. They might say things like, "My child used to enjoy learning, but now they avoid it altogether." Or they try so hard, but it just seems more difficult for them than for other children. And often parents quietly carry a lot of worry about this, and I can totally relate. They might start wondering if their child isn't trying hard enough or if they themselves are doing something wrong. But one of the most important things I often say to parents is this: difficulty is information. So when a child struggles with reading, writing, or maths, that difficulty is telling us something about how their brain is processing learning. It's not a sign that a child can't learn. It's not a sign that anyone has failed. It's a signal. It's a signal that we need to understand what might be happening beneath the surface. Something I see very often in assessments is that children who are struggling have actually been working incredibly hard for a long time. From the outside, it might sometimes look like they're avoiding the tasks, rushing through work, or losing focus. But quite often, what's happening is that the effort required to keep up with learning has simply become overwhelming. For example, imagine a child who is finding reading difficult. Every word takes more effort to decode. Every sentence requires more concentration. While other children may be reading smoothly, this child is still working so hard just to process each word. And over time, that extra effort, becomes absolutely exhausting. And when something feels that exhausting, the brain naturally starts looking for ways to protect itself. That's when we sometimes begin to see things like avoiding reading, saying, "I don't like school," rushing through work, or losing confidence. Another pattern I often see is that children begin to form beliefs about themselves. They might start saying things like, "Oh, I'm just bad at maths," or things like, "I'm not good at reading." But very often those beliefs aren't really about ability. They're about experience. If learning has felt difficult again and again, it's natural for a child to begin to assume that the problem is themselves. That's why understanding what is actually happening beneath the surface is so important. Because once we begin to understand why learning feels difficult, everything starts to become clearer. Sometimes the reason might be something like dyslexia, where reading and spelling require much more effort. Sometimes it might be dyscalculia, where understanding numbers and maths concepts is so much harder. Sometimes it might be related to things like working memory, processing speed, or the way information is held and organised in the brain. But the important thing to remember is this: difficulty is information. It gives us the clues about what a learner might need in order to feel more confident and successful. And once us as parents begin to understand those clues, something really powerful often happens. Instead of feeling confused or worried, they begin to feel clearer about how to support their child. The focus shifts from what's wrong to what might help. And that shift really can make such a huge difference. So if learning currently feels really hard for your child, I want you to know that you're not alone in that experience. Many families are navigating exactly the same questions. And the purpose of this podcast is to help bring a little more understanding, clarity, and reassurance along the way. If this episode resonated with you and you're navigating dyslexia or dyscalculia with your child, please know that you're not alone. You can find more conversations and support inside our parent community, where many families are sharing similar journeys. If you'd like to keep exploring these topics, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes of When Learning Feels Hard. You can also find more information about the work we do at the Dyslexia and Dyscalculia Academy at www.dyslexia-academy.com. And remember, difficulty is information. When learning feels hard, it's often the first step towards understanding what your child truly needs. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.